One day Hisae Iwaoka woke up and decided to win not only 7th Ikiman Newcomer Comic Award, but also a heart of a shy Polish girl in the middle of her adolescence. As a result, a 16-page short story made me fall in love in this newly discovered visual medium, which is manga. Surely there's a lot of nostalgia involved, after all we're talking about my very first manga read on illegal Polish website used primarily to watch Naruto. Also, we have to be careful not to fall into an illusion sad story equals good story. However, having read the comics again and again for 14 years now, I can confidently say White Clouds is my favorite manga ever. So what's so perfect about it and why everything? At first, the comics itself seems to be a very simple slice of life. An elder man and his dog live their mundane life, and at the end the animal dies of old age. But that is far from the truth. Hisae Iwaoka created a complex story which strongly engages us on narrative, visual and emotional levels. Let me explain. Shiro, the narrator, is an old dog who gets weaker and slower with every day. Grandpa is an even elder human who feels a bit left out in his family. With time, the old companions have grown very close to each other, not only by spending time together, but also by sharing the same experiences, struggles, and especially memories of recently deceased grandma. During their walks, they remember how cheerful and full of life she was. However, not all recollections are so uplifting. We get to know that because of some sort of accident or illness, a part of grandma's brain was damaged and she became bedridden. Shiro was observing how the old man was nursing his wife till she passed away. After the funeral, the old man took a plastic bottle, the last thing grandma touched before dying, as a keepsake. We and Shiro understand how precious it is, that's why the moment when someone steps on it and wants to throw it away is greatly painful. Grandpa entrusts the bottle only to Shiro and the dog dies, and Shiro, being a good boy, brings this very important item to its rightful owner who waits for them in the afterlife, among white clouds. After I read the story 14 years ago, I was left with sadness, hope and belief that I've learned something very elusive but at the same time important about life. The tears of such ambiguous emotions brought me some kind of inner relief. Now, with much more experience in being alive, I have even stronger feelings. You see, my great-grandmother died in similar conditions. We were not close at all and I usually visited her once a year, but when I saw her lying silently in bed, being so fragile and slowly disappearing, I felt afraid and disappointed in this unfair world. Thus now I relate to this panel more than ever. During the funeral, I noticed that various generations had different approach to the death of another family member. For us, the youngest, it was almost like a festivity, and I didn't thought much how hard it was for my grandmother to move on. Did I broke a plastic bottle with some joke or half-baked comment? Did I say to just throw it away? It is nothing more than a masterpiece that within 16 pages the manga touches so many intricate subjects in such a human way. And I believe you all can identify yourselves with the plot and characters, because Shiro's short story is in fact a story of timeless motives and shared experiences. Besides the intensity of my emotions, the comics have more objective qualities that deserve some recognition. For example, ways of creating this elusive atmosphere. Hisae Iwaoka builds her world with small images and contrasts. From the beginning we constantly reminded memento mori by specific choice of imaginary and words. Actually, let's count them on the first 2 pages. We have an old man as a protagonist named only Grandpa, dog introducing his old age, mentioning grandma in past tense, problems with memory sight issue, picture of home altar, passed away grandma, comment that grandpa will soon follow his wife, and that he looks pretty frail. Together we have 9 instances of introducing melancholic, bit morbid aura. all of this clashes with narrative choices such as making a dog the narrator. Most of us perceive animals, especially domesticated ones, as innocent and loving. Thus, the story itself, even if Shiro can be a bit grumpy, gains more childlike dimension, which is significantly amplified thanks to the art style. Simplified, sketchy visual layer looks like something out of children's books, yet the composition and pace can be very mature. For example, when Shiro mentions that grandma is still present in his life, however he's not in hers anymore, we see an image of her leaving divided into 3 separate panels. This illustrates a process how grandma gets more and more distant, so she becomes only a memory, a shadow from the past. The use of white spaces is well thought, because why do you need background when you can have emotional pain? And let's not forget about the greatest flip page moment. Yes, you heard this right, Junji Ito. Uzumaki was rightfully dethroned. I mean, we can hear the silence after the accident because we silent with the characters. Unless you gasp. I gasped. Last but not least, the manga is mature enough to find comedy in mundane. Some great works follow pattern sad equals serious equals better, which can lead to creating edgy content or the next sound of sadness. Having humorous, wholesome elements makes story more natural and well balanced. And by the way, you won't convince me that this image is not a peak of comedy. Thank you. With this positive accent, I declare that White Clouds is the manga for me. It contrasts great ideas, reconciles suffering with hope, has an animal narrator which adds +10 points to the whole experience, 2 foreshadowings, 3 potential moments of good cry, and the saddest anime betrayal within only 16 pages. It was wonderful to return to it one more time, thanks to you actually, because while sharing my favorite manga, I want to thank you for 100 subscribers. That's a milestone I didn't plan to achieve when I made the first trashy video to escape my oppressive thoughts. Well, I've made this quite personal already, so why not end this trip with a poem? It's time for my continuous crying and begging my gods for attention. The adults go to drink the morning coffee. It's bitter, and I make a vow to never ever try it again. Instead, I go for cheap beer and vodka. Drunk, we promise we won't become our parents, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. Life doesn't work out. For the 100th time, and for the 100th time I plan to give up everything while continuously crying and begging my gods for attention. But that's not something I will tell my children. I tell them coming stories about Santa Claus, contraception, the therapeutic quality of yoga and resurrection, and I teach them how to be a better person than myself, and I will succeed and I will fail. In the end, it appears that the only few things I needed to learn was to quickly come up with a bedtime story and to bake cookies with too much sugar and to remember the many, many names of love.